Deborah Smith-Pagay specializes in helping people understand, accept, and appreciate personality differences. Any of that in your home? Her life-changing principles have become best-selling books. And am I ever excited about her latest? Take a look at this title, 30 Days to Taming Your Kid's Tongue. I wonder how practical that sounds where you are, Deborah. Thank you. You just keep bringing us these life-changing opportunities.
Well, and it's funny because I don't have kids, and I do want people to know that, lest they say, who are you to write a book on taming your kids' tongues? And when I was battling with God on writing this book, he says, but you are a communicator.
Yes.
So you're going to teach kids how to communicate effectively.
You have been married to your wonderful husband for, is it
35 years? Yes.
And we rejoice in that. And you just invest in others at a corporate level, church consultant as well in the financial arena. But this whole area of communication, may I just, okay, I won't let it be a rant, I promise, but I am genuinely concerned about where the English language is going.
Yes.
And what on earth our children will communicate in a world where they don't even use full words, never mind whole sentences.
Yeah, they talk in shorthand. You are, 2 words. Oh. I'm just concerned they may not ever be able to spell again.
Absolutely. So where do we start with this whole area of kids communicating well?
Well, we want to talk about positive communication and negative communication because that's one language. But I say kids now need to be bilingual, meaning they can continue their shorthand, but they must be trained in the ways of effective communication. So I think that's where we start to let them have both because listen, it's going to be impossible to stop that train.
Yeah,
it's on the track and moving fast. But I think as a wise parent, we're going to say, okay, you can talk that language on your social media, but you're going to have to be able to get a good grip on effective communication in real life.
So you've split the book in half. It's always with you. It's one challenge a day.
Yes.
So we've got 30 specific things to focus on. Right. The first half, positive communication training.
Yes.
The second 15 are
negative behaviors that you don't want to tolerate as a parent. Things like whining and cursing and those kinds of things, disrespecting authority. But I really wanted to start with the positive because I wrote my book, 30 Days to Taming Your Tongue. That was targeted for adults. But as I began to have conflict management seminars and just watch people interact, I realized that a lot of the things a lot of the bad communication we find adults engaging in, it could have been corrected had they learned some good people skills early on.
Early.
So that's why I want to teach kids how to, okay, parents, let's get this on track early on.
Well, let's start at the very beginning. I love your very first point. Thank you.
Can you believe
Are they learning that anymore?
Well, kids take for granted. They're entitled. They're entitled to everything these days. And so we got to teach kids. You have to be proactive, first of all, in teaching kids to say, listen, thank you, because it lets a person know, I appreciate your generosity, and you are not entitled to everything that somebody does for you. And so that's why it's important that they express that gratitude. And here's the thing. I read something that said ingratitude to man is ingratitude to God. So you want to teach your children that everything comes from God. And so that's why he uses people, but you want to make sure that you're grateful to people because that's a blessing that came from God.
An elderly person in our life said, when we were young, we were taught that if you are blessed in a special way, you write a thank you note. Okay, do you feel an earthquake here?
Is that a lost art?
A thank you note to the person. I mean, I don't think that's part.
Yeah, and that's my pet peeve. You talk about your rant. I've given gifts and never heard from the kid I sent it to. It's like parents, that shouldn't be a lost art. You can keep a supply of thank you cards on hand. Even let them write in their own handwriting. Thank you for the bicycle. I like it. That's enough. Whatever, but come on, don't allow your child to grow up to be an ungrateful person because it's going to flow into marriage or whatever. You're just going to assume you were supposed to do that for me just because I'm me.
No, little things mean a lot.
Right.
Okay, here's another basic.
Okay.
Please.
Please.
I'm sitting in a restaurant. If anyone at my table just puts out an order and doesn't say please, just assumes it's my right, I'm here, I'm paying for it, I don't need to say please.
Just rude and untrained. And I'm thinking, a lot of times we don't understand that please is like a magic key that opens the door to somebody's willingness to accommodate us. Just so think about it. You do yourself a good service when you say please to others because it's saying, I realize you have a choice. You really didn't have to, you don't have to do it, even if you're paying them, but they don't have to do it with a great attitude. So you realize that if you say please, you're really helping yourself. And it's just a nice thing. It's nice to be nice.
Parents, we are the models. And, you know, I guess this is the third big and obvious one, also a challenge for parents, for adults, let me just say. Apologizing. You have a lot to say about that.
Well, I do, because a lot of us don't like to apologize. We'd rather buy the person a gift or just try to make up for it in some indirect way. You know, husbands are good at this. They won't say, I'm sorry, they'll just buy you something. I was doing a seminar once, and I said, how many of you would rather have an apology? And a lot of them raised their hands, and I said, how many would rather have a gift? And then I said, how many would rather have both? But the interesting thing is, it's an error on a parent's part to just have the kids say, I'm sorry. You know, no, that's an incomplete apology. They need to be able to say, listen, I acknowledge what I did. Yes, I broke the bike. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Let me make amends if I can. That's a complete apology. And we need to be able to say that, because an apology acknowledges the wrong. It's the reason you're sorry. I'm sorry because I did this. And I think that's important. Don't just have your kids say, sorry. You know,
They might just be sorry they got caught.
Right.
Instead of genuinely
yes,
repenting
yes.
for their action.
And they have to learn how to do that, because I've seen bosses, and parents can start by apologizing. Parents mess up sometimes too, and I think if they set the example to say, I'm sorry I overreacted or whatever, that's important to set the example, because kids are going to learn most of all by example.
And the parenting experts have really sounded that clearly to us, that I think in my father's generation, it was revealing a chink in your armor to admit any kind of mistake. And we now know, we know down to our toenails that our kids need to see that, yeah, we are human and we can admit when we've failed.
And it doesn't mean you're a weak parent. It just means you're showing them how to be human and how to recover from it. That's important to say that, because I've had bosses who wouldn't say I'm sorry. They just say, well, don't do it next time, or you know, they never say I messed up or I gave you improper instructions or whatever. You know, we got to learn how to do that. It takes humility. It takes humility to do that.
There's the word.
A proud person won't do that.
Now, you've probably been busting to comment on my bar of soap. You know, I'm not sure it ever happened to me. I think it happened. I'm the eldest of 6. I'm sure it came out in my childhood. This would be child abuse now, right?
Yes.
Look out. Don't try this if the negative is coming off your child's tongue. You know, one of the ones that grieves me terribly, little children who don't even know what they're saying.
I know.
Oh my God.
I know. I've seen videos on YouTube that talk about that, and little kids are cursing, and I'm like, where's the parent? But you see, again, it all goes back to the parent. And we want to encourage parents, because we're not trying to beat them up to say you didn't do this or you didn't do that. But it's important for parents to set the standard. That's why you got to be a godly parent. Because if you want your child to be godly, you're going to have to set a godly example. And you're going to have to, because most of the times they will learn their words from what you say, what they hear you say. And then you got to watch what kind of environment you let them expose themselves to. Like, I see a lot of cursing on TV, and it used to be after hours you'd hear that kind of thing. Now they just say these curse words as a normal part of, you know, regular programming.
Absolutely.
And I'm thinking, what in the world, what is the world coming to? But you know what? It's coming to whatever the parents decide it's going to come to with their child. And that's the message of the book. Let's learn how to get these kids to be powerful communicators, to always speak up, or whatever we need them to do, but to do it in a way that honors God, and that's the point.
I couldn't miss a connection, Deborah, that takes us on both sides of the fence back into the positive, but there's a negative consequence, and this is all tied to teaching your children to express themselves, stand up for themselves, speaking up. Tell us first the positive side of this and why it's so important.
Well, it's important because we have to understand that the quality of a child's life is really going to be dictated by how well they are able to say, I'm not controlling my environment. I don't like what's going on in my environment. And you find this, a lot of people, even in corporate America, or even in families, they don't express their displeasure. They send it underground. So you find a lot of anger. This is what I believe the Holy Spirit said to me, that anger is, resentment is unresolved anger that has been sent underground. So we got to learn how to put the issues on the table. And so I think we need to teach kids how to do that early on, to say, I'm uncomfortable with this, or I don't like it, or I would prefer. Use words like that. I would prefer to do this or that. And so that's important. But the downside of it is that when kids don't speak up, it looks like they're weak and vulnerable. And assertiveness is always the best form of communication, because rather than being aggressive, because we always go from one extreme to the other. We can keep quiet for peace sake, which is not in the Bible, or we can just always be blowing up. But see, there is a way, and there is a middle road, and assertiveness is it. To say, I'm concerned about you, I'm concerned about me, but this is how I feel about what's going on.
Yeah, children should be seen and not heard is not a scripture verse.
No, it's not. And that's what we, in my generation, that's what we grew up hearing. So we couldn't question a parent. And there's a way to do it with respect. And we talk about, respect and authority in the book. I talk about that, respect and authority.
What almost gave me shivers was the realization of a truth that you bring out, and this is where we get to the verbal bullying, other kinds of bullying,
Yes.
that like the wild herd in Africa, where the lion can sniff out the vulnerable ones, the weak ones. Talk about kids who are bullied.
Well, and the kids who are bullied are not necessarily bullied because they are different, because they're obese or they wear thick glasses or funny clothes or whatever. They are bullied because they appear to be the weak ones. They look vulnerable, and they don't even speak loudly. They're just they're kind of
retreating.
Yeah, retreating. And so you want to teach your kid to show that kind of confidence that says it's going to be a problem if you deal with me. Yeah. Really, we have to get that. We don't want them to be aggressive, but we want a kid to know and portray that kind of confidence that says I am not the one that you want to take on.
Speaking the truth in love is a biblical concept.
It is.
Now, I'm really hoping that God is taking you into schools, into churches. Is this happening, Deborah?
I speak all over, and every opportunity that I have, I want to mention these principles, because you know what? They apply to adults and to children, that we teach people how to treat us by what we tolerate. And so I want kids to know that too, and I want parents to know that you don't have to be afraid of not being your kid's friend. And so therefore you tolerate a lot of negative behavior, because what you're doing is teaching them how to treat you as a parent by what you tolerate. Kids are looking for boundaries. They're looking for where the edge is so that they don't go beyond that. That lets them know that they are loved. And so I'm trying to convince parents, stop focusing on being the friend, stop being afraid of rejection and alienation, and get out there and be the parent. Be the parent.
If we could learn this much in a few minutes, imagine what 30 days to taming your kid's tongue can mean in your home. I am so grateful that it is at our e-store and that you just keep writing, Deborah.
Thank you.
Come on back from California soon, okay?
You bet.